boys and girls. Today on Music with Mrs. Brooks, we're going to learn how to read rhythms level 6, the rhythm tree. So up until now, I've been telling you the name of notes using the Kodály method. So the Kodály method would call this ta, and that word would be the 4 beats that it represents. We've got ta, ta, and they take the 2 beats that it's to represent. We called this ta, 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 ta. And now we normally didn't see these separated. We actually usually saw the 2 eighth notes, they're called, tied together. So 2 of these guys are called eighth notes, and we usually saw them tied together into sort of 2 eighth notes, and we called them TT. And then in our recent video, we just learned ticka ticka. So a ticka ticka is made up of 4 sixteenths. So actually, you sometimes might see the sixteenths separated, just like eighth notes. But they are also the same when they are connected like this. You might see 4 sixteenths like this. Now, why do we sometimes call these tas, quarter notes, everything? Well, it comes from the idea of the rhythm tree. So we start with this note, and this is at the top of the tree. Now, in Kodály, we call it ta, but its other name is a whole note because one of these takes up a whole bar in 4/4 time. These guys are sometimes called half notes because there are 2 of these in a whole note, so each one is half of a whole note. There are 4 tas in a whole note, so they each take up a quarter of a whole note, so they are called quarter notes. There are 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 T's in every ta. So if this is called a whole note, these are called eighth notes because there's 8 of them in every whole note. And last but not least, we have our 16th notes. Because there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 of these guys in every whole note, they're each called 16th notes. And the group of 4 16th notes we called a ticka ticka. And a ticka ticka is the amount of time as a ta. So 2 T's make a ta. So TT, ta, TT, ta makes the same amount of time. Now, as rhythms get more complicated, it becomes more beneficial to refer to them in terms of beat numbers than it is to refer to them by names. Names are helpful when you're starting out, and it's easy to really just say ta, 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 ticka, 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 t, 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 t. But when you start mix and matching these in harder rhythms, which you're going to see, it becomes harder to count. So we start counting bars of music in terms of numbers. So a whole note takes up a whole bar of music. A bar of music is 4 beats in 4/4 time. So if we were to count it, we would say there are 1, 2, 3, 4 beats in a whole note. Similarly, the first 2 beats take up a half note, and beats 3 and 4 take up the other beats of a half note. So if I were to clap this rhythm, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ta, 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 ta. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I were to count these quarter notes, each one of these is 1 beat. So I would go 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ta, 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 ta. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, when we get to eighth notes, this sort of stops working. And so we need to start having a new thing. And so, for no better reason than it was the first thing they thought of, someone decided to describe the halfway point between beats as an and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So if you're looking at ta, 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 which is this line, 1, 2, 3, 4, if I was to look at the eighth note line, I would call it 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so I need a new marker because I can see that this is getting a bit difficult for us. And so if I was to write in the counting for my eighth note, it would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So we'll bring that a bit closer to everyone so you can see. So we've got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And last but not least, if we're going to subdivide the beat into 4, so eighth notes divide the beats in half. 1 and. Because there are 4 16th notes in every quarter note, we have to divide the beat in 4. And I'm pretty sure that whoever came up with this system was just blathering, but they came up with the idea of calling it 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So if we were to write it down, we write it down, and a lot of times, instead of using the word and, we just use a plus sign. So the word plus means and when you're saying it out loud. So if we were to look at that counting for 16th notes, it would be 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So the rhythm is ticka 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 ticka. If we were to say it in terms of Kadai names and counting, if we were to write it in terms of counting, it would be 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So again, in terms of beats, if we were to count this, it would be, so at this top level, for our whole note, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. For sort of this level 2 of half notes, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. If we're at level 3 with the quarter notes, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. If we're at the eighth note level, we would be subdividing with the and. So the idea of 1 and 2 and 3 and, with the and being the halfway point. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and at the lowest level, the ticka tickas. Ticka 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 becomes 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, or ticka 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 ticka. Now when you're just looking at the rhythm tree, it doesn't really make sense. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to bring back from levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 some of those cards, and we're going to write the counting on them. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look into counting in our next video, and we're going to look at some rhythm patterns, and I'm going to write in the counting.